Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Fit Podcast with me, Callie Barker, and now fit again and well, Scott McCarter. How are you doing, Scott? You've not been so well this week.
Yes. Sorry, we're a bit late with the podcast this week, everybody. I was a bit under the weather between sort of Monday and Wednesday, uh, so that's why we're a bit late. But fighting fit now and ready to look back on a very enjoyable week in Hong Kong, as well as look forward a wee bit to the Players' Championship. But what did you make of things in Hong Kong then?
Well, I really enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed the China tournaments because I'm an early riser. I mean, early up for work, but I get to watch it in the office. 5 o'clock was a little bit on the early side even for me, but
Yeah.
yeah, going back to the snooker, some really good matches and really starts to put you in the mood now. These big events in the run up to Sheffield.
Yes, well, we're in proper snooker season now, aren't we? I mean, we're in proper sort of run up to thing. Uh, Sad if you ask me that it wasn't still on ITV, but nonetheless, the TNT presentation was very good as always, and of course, we're going to get ITV this incoming tournament, the Players' Championship, but very, very good. And I think the first match that we're actually going to mention, obviously, well done to Neil Robertson for winning it, but the first match we're going to mention is an extraordinary quarter-final between Judd Trump and Hossein Vafai.
Yeah, Judd was just in sparkling form. Opened the match with a 1-4-5. So he thought, wow, he's looking all right. Finished with a 1-4-6, as if a 1-4-5 wasn't good enough. And then in between that, he had a 1-0-8 and a 1-1-5. Hossein was struggling with his shoulder injury he's had for a little while,
Yeah.
but Judd put in a performance there that made everyone sit up and take notice. And it was 4 more centuries towards his target for the 100 for the season. So, yeah, job done for Judd, and you can't play much better than he did there.
No, I mean, some of the statistics were extraordinary. I mean, the 3746 break, I, uh, I, I was actually quite surprised it being so rare in history, but I think, yeah, Judd can be pleased with that performance. 86 now, I think, for the season in terms of centuries. So, like, he's going to get, and dare I say it, if he has a good run at Telford and Manchester, he could arrive at Sheffield like sort of 94, 95, or possibly more. I mean, certainly the way he's playing, I mean, he could arrive at Sheffield, needed about three to make it. I mean, it is quite extraordinary.
Yeah, you wouldn't put it past him, would you? Now, he's and with the tournaments that are left as well, they're all the longer frames. I think as the players best of 11, I think from the word go, and
It
the
is,
tour
yes,
is
you're quite right.
the tour the tour championship has longer matches from the off, and obviously Sheffield. So unless he somehow breaks his arm or something, you'd think he would get this 100 centuries now. So yeah, he's looking good for it, and I hope he gets it at the Crucible just because I'll be in the crowd to have that big cheer.
Of course, yes. Uh, and then, of course, the other quarterfinals were very memorable in a different way. I think we can we can definitely
Yes,
say that.
I thought they were all good standard actually.
Yeah.
Neil Robertson beat Zhao Gudong 5-3. This was a high quality contest. Gudong led 3-1 at the interval. But Robertson stepped up his scoring power afterwards and breaks of 80, 65, 101, and 80 again put him into the semis, and he was looking good. And the match that I'm sure you were concentrating on was the John Higgins quarter-final against Sean Murphy. Murphy did win 5-3, so John's good run came to a little bit of an end, but tremendous match. Both played well. His good form, John played well as Sean, but the run did come to an end. Sean winning 5-3, and Sean made a 1-4-3 as well. So everyone was in good scoring form last week in Hong Kong, and it was good to watch.
Wasn't he? Yes. Like, to be fair to Sean, he did play extremely well in that match with John. So it's not as if John can have any complaints. And again, John played very well, particularly. I know it was in the round before, but particularly in the two rounds before where he had Ali Carter and obviously Kyron Wilson. So John's got their green shoots for John there as well. The form that won in the World Open wasn't temporary. You remember on the last podcast, I was sort of querying to some extent, did the draw open up for him? But clearly, the two wins that he had in Hong Kong show that John's form was there. But fair play to Sean. I mean, would it be right to call Sean a favourite for Sheffield?
I think he'd be in the top 4 or 5 favourites. Certainly,
Yeah,
he's playing as well as anyone is. Certainly on the scoring side, and
yeah,
winning the Masters, it only breeds confidence. And I do think Sean's got his mojo back. That he said he lost his confidence for a time, but working with Peter Ebden, whatever Peter's writing down in that notebook when he's with Sean, I assume they'll be together at Sheffield. You'd have to say Sean would be one of the, players to look out for at the Crucible.
yeah. And like, he probably will be there as a seed now, you would think.
I think so. I think he's 17th at the moment, but he's guaranteed points from the players, and I think he's almost certainly in the tour as well now. I'm not quite sure, but guaranteed points there. And there's a couple. I think whoever's ahead of him hasn't made it to Telford, so Sean's looking the more likely, but I think he's still got work to do. I think he still needs to win a match or two to make sure. But I think something extraordinary would have to happen now for him not to be there as a seed.
Yeah. Yeah, so, but going back to Neil Robertson and Joe Godon, was it in that match where Dave Hendon made the point of commentary? I don't know whether you heard this, that at one point Neil went out and went to the toilet and sort of G'd himself up and then decided to come back and sort of, you know, play a bit quicker and play a bit
Yeah,
faster and,
I
G himself
actually,
up.
I think actually, Scott, that was the semi-final when he was 5-3 down to Murphy. He went out, but whatever he did when he went out, it did the job, didn't it? But we'll
Yeah.
just go back to the last quarter final before we move on to those semis. And it was a really good match with Stuart Bingham and Mark Selby, which Bingham won 5-4. It was another really good watch. I think all 4 of the quarters were good matches in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Stewart started with a 1-1-6, but Selby then took control with 370 odds and a 96 to lead 4-2. A funny story at this point, because the previous matches had been best of 7, Stuart Bingham's wife was watching back home and she thought it was best of 7 again. So when it was 4-2 to Selby, she switched off because she thought Stuart had lost. And then later on, he phoned and she was like, "Oh, what time are you going to be home?" And he says, "What do you mean? I'm still in the tournament. I won." And she was like, "Oh, I thought you'd lost." And she said, "No, it's best of nine."
Oh,
So
dear
yeah,
me.
so
Oh,
yeah,
dear.
that was. I thought that was quite funny. But for a good reason, she wasn't getting her husband back just yet.
Yes, well, I don't mean to put a damper on it, but given what happened in the final,
Well, I think we'll come to that soon. But
yes,
you know, I,
yes,
I think I think he would have taken the final before it started.
of course they would have, of course, yes,
It was just sad how things happened. But
yeah,
anyway, we'll move on to the semis, and that first one, that was the first one. Yes, Neil Robertson beating Murphy 6-5. That was an early start. I had planned to have a lie-in on that Saturday morning because I was tired from the working week, but somehow I woke up at 6 o'clock and I couldn't just turn over then and go back to sleep. I had to get up and watch it. And it was a very, very good match again. I really enjoyed this one. Tremendous quality
yeah,
from the word go. Robertson started with breaks of 114 and 104, and you thought, wow, he really is back. But Murphy got his foot under the table, as it were, for the next
yeah,
couple of frames, 2-2 at the interval. Before the scoring fest continued, half centuries in every frame, a 107 from Sean to go 5-3 ahead. And he looked good for a place in the final then. I really didn't think Robbo would take 3 in a row with how Sean was playing. But the Thunder had other ideas. And as you say, Scott, he went out to the arena at 5-3 down, G'd himself up, and he was eager to get that next frame started, as you say. And before we knew it, we were down to a decider. This was for so it was down to the one frame for a place in the final, and the winner would also be guaranteed a seeding spot at Crucible. So there was a lot on this.
yeah,
But it was the Thunder once again who took his chance to reach the final and break Murphy's heart, really, after he'd played well all week. I know it's a bit of a cliche, and we say that it's a shame there has to be a loser. But it really was a shame someone had to lose that match because they both played so well. And yeah, really, really enjoyable contest.
yes. I mean, these two always seem to produce very good matches between the two of them, but yes, it's very rare, of course, that you would get one frame with quite so much on. Because, of course, not only was either of them getting into another ranking final, but obviously the winner of that frame would be guaranteed a crucible seating. So that added its own little extra bit of space, and fair play to Robertson. Because, of course, it, in that regard, there was probably slightly more pressure on Neil than there was on Sean. Because you remember that the last round of World Qualifying last year, Neil lost to Jamie Jones 10-9. So, he would have been desperate to put things right there because it was the first time since 2006 that he'd lost out. So,
Yeah, he would have wanted to avoid that qualifying again, and then realistically, he's too good to not be in the top 16. So
yes, yes,
and two titles this season now. So
yeah.
yeah, he's well up the list now, and how you can jump up the 1 year list as well because he's certainly in the tour as well now, as well as players. So yeah, well done, Neil Robertson. But
Yeah.
the other semi final was just as in its own way dramatic and had lots to talk about. And it was a bit of a turn up for the books as well. Stuart Bingham beating Judd Trump 6-3. Trump, despite 2 centuries, he was well under par from his previous match. We said how he played so well against Hossein Vafaei. But despite the 2 tons, he just wasn't really with it as much this time. But Stuart played really well. Stewart scored the better, which seems strange because Judd had 2 centuries, but Stewart scored the better when he was in and led 5-1, which was, a bit of a shock, really. Trump did hit back with 1-2-4 and a 72 to threaten the comeback, but it wasn't meant to be, as Bingham was patient and took his chance when he got it to win 6-3, move into his first ranking final for 6 years, I believe, and
Yes, yes, that's right.
he secured his place in the Players' Championship as well. So, as he said in his interview after, that was his final, really, to reach the final and to get into the Players' Championship. So, a very, very good day at the office for Stewart.
It was, and I always, I always think of you when I see Stuart Bingham because, you know, Stuart Bingham is he's a professional player, but he's just like us. He's a fan as well, and I love to see Stuart doing well. Obviously, it wasn't to be in the finals. We'll get to in a moment, but I couldn't believe it. It'd been 6 years since he got to a ranking final. I know, obviously, 5 years ago he got to the Masters final where he uh, he played
Yeah,
well there, but
he did. And yeah, I mean, even when he won the Masters, I didn't really see him as being a Triple Crown winner again, probably. But he's shown to still got it on his day. And I mean, it's only last year he beat Ronnie at the Crucible, and
yeah,
he'll think he missed the boat there with a place in the final up for grabs. But that's all gone now, and he's back again. He's lost nearly 3 stone, so he's doing really well with himself off the table as well. And I really hope that if he has to qualify for Sheffield, which is looking likely, I hope that he makes it because he's a cracking player, and as you say, he's a cracking bloke.
I know. He just he strikes you as the sort. I don't know how true this is, but he strikes me as the sort of fella I would get on to with very well talking about sort of history and trivia and sort of sprouting facts off all day. I think Stuart would be good at that sort of thing.
Oh, I think he enjoys all that. Yeah, and funnily enough, the year he won the World Championship, he got in touch and wanted to buy an almanac the next year because his face was on the cover. So
Yeah,
yeah, he's a top bloke. He knows his stuff, and I wonder if he's still got that almanac at home somewhere.
well, I'm sure he has. But no. And by the way, commiserations to Ali Carter on that one because it was him that was knocked out of the 16th spot for Telford. But
Yes, I
hard luck,
think
Ali.
after Stewart beating him in the Masters a few years back and denying him a triple crown, and now this, Ali probably isn't best friends with Stewart, but I don't think Stewart Bingham will be losing too much sleep about that.
No, 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 indeed not. But anyway,
Anyway,
if
moving
you're
on to
if you're if you're watching, Stuart, sorry, we're about to go into something uh, rather painful for you, but facts are facts, I'm afraid.
well, hopefully 80 grand in his back pocket. Hopefully he isn't feeling too sore about it now he's home. But yes, on to the final, and Neil won 10-0, as we've said, winning with a whitewash for the second time in his career. And it's only, as you said earlier, it's only happened 4 times ever in a ranking final. And Neil has now done it twice. So, yeah, once he gets into the groove and into the final, he doesn't let up, does he? He had 7 half centuries in the final, plus a 104. So, for Stewart, it was a case of what might have been, as he just couldn't take his chances to get going. I mean, on another day, instead of 10-0, that might have been 5-all. Neil played really well to lead 4-0. Didn't give Stuart too much chance, but Stuart did have his chances after the interval, and just, I think as each frame passed by, it was getting harder to win one then, and you know, and we learned afterwards as well that it had been a sad week for Stuart off the table because his longtime coach Joe Lazarus had passed away earlier that week. And then
Yeah.
only on the day of the final, his uncle passed away as well. So a very sad week for Stuart. And I'm sure those guys were proud of him that he reached the final. So I hope he takes heart from getting to the final. And okay, it was a terrible way to lose, but I think Stuart's hopefully back and is now in the Players' Championship, where ironically he'll be playing Neil in the first round, and so a chance of a bit of revenge or a little bit more torture. But we know Ball Run. I think he'll be back smiling either way.
Yes, of course he will. Condolences, of course, to Stuart on the death there. Horrible to find out about that halfway through a final when you're being, he was already what 7 or 8 nil down in that final, and therefore, he wouldn't have been feeling the best anyway. But then to get that, it
Yeah.
was awful, I
Um,
think.
Yeah, very sad for Stuart. But we all must mention condolences to Jack Klosowski as well, who terribly tragically lost his father during the tournament, which was, we didn't know it at the time, but he withdrew before his last 16 match against Judd Trump, and flew home. And then he put out a statement a few days later on his social media that his father had passed away suddenly. Um, so we all feel for Jack at the moment, and hopefully he's with his family now, and hopefully he'll be back in the right frame of mind for the World qualifiers, which will be his next outing. Um, Hopefully do it for his dad, and hopefully we see him back for those qualifiers, and hopefully back at the Crucible.
Yes, a sort of uh, awful sort of backcloth or background to the tournament that sort of took the shine off it to some extent. But life goes on, and it's just one of
Yeah, I
those
think
things, I suppose.
it is. I mean, I'm sure at the moment everything's pretty raw. I think because it was probably such a shock, it was so unexpected. But and times like this make you realise that there is more to life than snooker. Not often I say that, I have to say.
Yes, yes.
Um, but yeah, hopefully he's with the family, and hopefully bearing up well by the time it's the World Championship.
Indeed. And we are getting close to that holy
We
grail for
certainly
snooker
are.
fans, I suppose.
Oh, we certainly are. I'm starting to think about it every day now myself. Um, so yeah, it's not far away, and yeah, but a couple of big tournaments to come before then. So a couple of weeks of really good snooker, and yeah, really looking forward to these next big events on ITV because they always cover it so well as well.
And I should mention, just before I forget, I should give the answer to the trivia question. You remember I asked who did John Higgins beat in the semi-final of his first ranking tournament in '94? I'll give you
Yes,
a clue. I'll give you a clue, Kelly. It was a fellow countryman of mine. Now, bear in mind this is 1994.
was it Fergal? No,
Joe,
Northern Ireland.
yeah,
Um,
Joe Swale.
Joe Swale, blimey, that's going back a bit. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think after our last episode, when you asked the question, I had to think about it and couldn't think who it might have been. So I think I did look it up, but I'd forgotten again now by the time we've recorded. So yeah, Joe Swale. Oh, they were heady days.
Oh, well, that was actually 4 years before I was born, but
Wow.
nonetheless.
Yes.
Uh,
Just just moving on briefly before we go to more snooker has been taking place this week. They've been the amateurs have been over in Italy, in
oh,
Turkey,
yes.
sorry, in Antalya for the Q Tour playoffs, where three main tour places were up for grabs, and we've got three new professionals now. Liam Highfield rejoins the circuit after 1 year away. Stephen Hallworth rejoins the circuit after a few years away for him. He just built himself up as a really good commentator as well, but he'll have to put the mic back down now and get back to the table. So well done for him. And also to Austria will have their first professional, Florian Nersler, who's qualified for the first time.
Yeah.
So well done to those three. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what the three of them can do. Especially young Florian Nersler. It feels like he's been around a long time already, but he is only 23 still. So bags of time on his side.
Yes. Three very established names in the sort of snooker world that you and I would know quite well, because uh, Liam was played at the Crucible, and Stephen Hallworth, of course, the defending English amateur champion. So they know their way around the snooker table, as Alan McManus might say. But
They certainly
no, so it'll
do.
be
And
very interesting to see how they go next
yeah,
season when they rejoin the tour. I assume those
absolutely.
are 2 year cards, are they?
Yes, all 2 year cards. And I think, I couldn't swear to it, but I believe they'll get invites to the World Championship qualifiers as well, which will be good to see them there. It was good
Yes.
standard. I watched quite a bit of it. It was on YouTube all week. So I enjoyed some of that, seeing as we had some main tour free week. And in the semi-final, Mark Joyce beat Dylan Emery, and Joyce had a 147. So the standard, even off the main tour these days, is exceptional. And I mean, we all know what Mark Joyce is capable of. He'd been a mainstay for many years. But yeah, so a 147 and a very good week in Antalya.
Now, does that count on the official list? I don't think so.
I don't believe so. I think it is only main tour events that count, but but still a good achievement nonetheless.
Yes, and again, Mark Joyce, another, as you say, mainstay of the circuit for decade after decade. So, you know,
Absolutely. I think the biggest
very
surprise for
interesting to
about
see how they go. Just time to give you the trivia question for next time. Before we'll be back after the Players' Championship, I should explain, because we were slightly late to recording today. We're recording this on Friday evening, hence we're not going to be back on Monday. We'll be back after the Players' Championship to review things from Telford. But my trivia question for this one, for this time, is who won the UK Championship in 1995 with a 146 break? So that's because we're talking about Judd Trump's 146 earlier. So, who won the UK Championship in 1995 with a 146 break? So, with that, we'll leave you there. I'll say good evening to Kelly Barker. Thank you very much again for joining me, Kelly. And we'll be back after the Players' Championship.
yes, enjoy that tournament and we'll see you all soon. Bye.
Bye.